Thank you very much, Partha. Coming after Dr. Vishali, it's a tough act to follow, but the topic that Dr. JB gave me, and I find it very interesting, is that he's asked me to look at the question, are we seeing more of viral anterior uveitis? So viral anterior uveitis is defined as a sort of a low-grade anterior uveitis most of the time, where the intraocular pressure is elevated. So there are 3 or 4 ways in which it might manifest. So you can have diffuse stellate keratic precipitates, or you can have pigmentation within active keratic precipitates with iris atrophic changes, sometimes very high pressures and very episodic. So like the Posler-Schwarzman kind of presentation. So you can have it in elderly patients or in young individuals as well. So it does have a lot of clinical variation in terms of the pattern. And the causes, herpetic is of course the commonest cause. In fact, 5 to 10% of all the cases that were attributed to infection etiology in anterior uveitis was about due to herpetic. And in Indian scenario, it's about 0.9 to 8.3%. And this is from the excellent article published by Kalpana. So when I was trying to look at the epidemiology across the years and the more recently published articles, so what I saw that it didn't, at least what is published has not really changed much. It seems to vary from about 7 to 9 to 10% based on whichever study you go to. And a few of the Western studies actually had a slightly lower percentage. For example, this one, which was a large population in Sweden, it had about a 5.1%, but they only look at HSV and VZV. Whereas the other publications, which were from China as well as from India and Southeast Asia, so they had definitely a higher percentage of viral infection for the anterior uveitis component. So are we seeing it more, or rather, probably we are diagnosing it more because we're recognizing it more? The background is, why does this uveitis become so recalcitrant? Is that the eye, of course, is a natural reservoir for viruses which remain dormant for a long time. And there are recurrent episodes which can occur. In spite of treating the patient for 3-6 months of antiviral therapy, you can still have recurrent episodes which can happen for years, because there's so much of variability, as I mentioned, there's so much of variability in the host in terms of age, prior disease, whether the antibodies which are there, could they neutralize the virus, or the cytopathic effect of the virus itself vis-a-vis the immune mechanism of the host. So that's the reason of the variability. Now, what are the common viruses causing this? You have VZV, CMV, rubella virus, but there are also certain rare viruses that are there. And these, it's really hard to detect these viruses, even with most of PCR testing, whatever you do, unless we actually suspect this, or let's say we have a patient with history of chikungunya or dengue fever, and then we might suspect this as the cause. So coming to what what you can commonly see in your clinic is these top 3 kind of viruses, which is herpes simplex, varicella zoster, and cytomegalovirus. So very quickly running through the clinical features. In the case of herpes simplex, you'll have a patient coming in maybe with some recurrent keratitis. There may be previous corneal scars. The corneal sensation may be reduced. You might be lucky to see the typical form of the keratitis, like the dendrites and so on. They would have small to medium to sometimes even large KPs and moderate AC reaction with raised intraocular pressure. So this is typically what you would expect with HSV. On the other hand, in case of zoster, you might have a patient with immunocompromised status with 8ZO accompanying the onset of the disease, and various other corneal manifestations. There would be quite a profound AC reaction. There would be segmental iris atrophy, translumination defects, and the classical skin depigmentary changes. So sometimes it's easier to recognize a zoster kind of a anterior uveitis. So CMV is a more recent entity, and I'm very fascinated by it always, in the way it causes localized corneal edema. So it affects both the endothelial cells as well as uveitis, as well as causing secondary glaucoma. And this can be, the classic is coin-shaped kind of pattern, but we don't see it all the time. We might see it linear or granulomatous kind of inflammation, which is not respecting the Arles triangle, but can be there just in the center somewhere. And raised IOP, super raised IOP in 40s, 60s is quite classical with this, which is transient, and the specular counts slowly get affected. So this is what you can see with CMV. And of course, the last entity is Fuchs, which we know is a white eye uveitis, classic stellate keratic precipitates without posterior signing K. Patient comes in with cataract most of the time, and vitreous opacities also, and you can have the classical iris hyperchromia. And there is an association with rubella virus. So I'm going to quickly run through a few cases, and these are very interesting to me at least. So the first case is a 38-year-old lady. She has a 16-year history of chronic recurrent low-grade uveitis, and she was investigated for everything that could cause anterior segment inflammation, and systemically at least. And also she had developed secondary glaucoma. So because of the chronic recurrent history, when she came to us, what we could see is that the patient had already undergone cataract surgery. You could see these fairly large cataract precipitate, and the diffuse look is because of corneal edema. And she had undergone LASIK. So what you could see is the interface fluid following LASIK surgery because of the raised pressure and the corneal edema. So we did an AC tap for her with, and what we got for with real-time quantitative PCR was very high viral load of CMV. So we started the patient on oral vanganciclovir. Within a couple of weeks, she got much, much better. She had to undergo a trab for her secondary glaucoma because it was advanced. So this specular shows how bad the endothelium looked at entry. And later on down the line, it stabilized. She still has not a great endothelial cell count, but her corneas look much, much clearer. So we published this report. The second case was an interesting 61-year-old gentleman who had recurrent uveitis for about 3 to 4 years. But by the time he came to us, he's also developing corneal edema. He had secondary glaucoma. So this kind of picture where you have uveitis with with these cataract precipitates and corneal edema, I think to me is quite classical for viral etiology. So interestingly, this patient was HLA-B27 positive, and that threw everybody off the track. And the patient was almost going to be started on antimetabolites and then was going to go on to biologicals because his inflammation wouldn't subside. This was the entry level showing the corneal edema and this corrugation on the folds in the Descemet's membrane, and even some keratic precipitates which are isolated and hanging there on the DM. And this is his affected eye, which shows that the specular count is compromised. So he also had to undergo trabeculectomy for his glaucoma, which is pretty advanced, as well as cataract surgery, which was initially had a lot of corneal edema, which recovered, and he recovered complete vision. So we published this as a case, which how it can mimic, and especially if you have HLA-B27 uveitis, you think it's that. This was one more interesting case. Now, when I think back, I think I've seen other such patients, a 5-year-old child who presented to us because it was 2-3 month history with hypopyon, not responding to everything, to steroids and so on. So in fact, when the child came, it was one of the differentials was a masquerade. So the child underwent a biopsy, and the hypopyon itself was sent, which actually showed granulomatous inflammation and multinucleated giant cells with ribbon-like folds. So we thought that, so this is the giant cell with the ribbon-like nuclear membrane folds. So we thought that we also sent the aqueous for quantitative PCR, and that came back as HSV1. And the child improved dramatically after we started antivirals. Of course, due to the chronic inflammation, child had a cataract, we had to do cataract surgery as well for this patient. So this was also published. And coming to a couple of other cases, if I have time, not able to see the timer.
You can take one more minute.
Right. So just with last two cases. So this patient is interesting in that he's anti-uveitis since 4 years, secondary glaucoma on brimonidine and other drugs since 2 years. Also extensively investigated, they're all negative. So we shouldn't jump to the conclusion that they're all viral. We must investigate them for recurrent anti-uveitis, HLA-B27 and so on. Those should be done. So AC tap was negative though in this case. So what did we do? So we still went ahead and started the patient on oral acyclovir. There was significant improvement in the sense that his recurrent episodes stopped, his pressures became normal. We could stop AGMs, stop prednisolone, though he's on low dose drugs. So this was a patient with these very fine pigments which are dispersed on the endothelium. The last case I have was an interesting patient who first came to us in November 2018. And by the time he already had the disease for quite some time, he had advanced secondary glaucoma with a 0.8 cup. So because he had recurrent episodes with high pressures, so we decided to start oral acyclovir a few months later, but he didn't really improve. Even his glaucoma kept progressing, so he required trab and a cataract surgery. So this was after the cataract surgery and trab, though his cornea looked a little better, but he kept having these recurrent episodes of inflammation. And you can notice how the diffuse corneal edema inferiorly now is showing up as keratic precipitates. Something is attacking the endothelium. So when he got lost due to COVID, came back after that, and then we did an AC tap, which was surprisingly positive both for HSV1 as well as for CMV. So we treated him now with acyclovir, and his speculars were, of course, by the time his corneal endothelium had suffered a lot, and he also underwent DSEC subsequently. So that's all I had to share with you about the increased number of viral anterior uveitis we're seeing. Maybe it's just that we're becoming a little smarter.